Shut up, widower. My name is Alfred, and I am 63 years old. I have buried the love of my life, built a home from scratch, raised a son with trembling hands and hopeful prayers, and yet nothing in those 63 years prepared me for the night my daughter-in-law looked me in the eye and spat the words. Shut up, widower. The room went silent, even the clinking of silverware seemed to freeze in midair. But that was only the beginning. The hook, a word that cut deeper than death's. I have been called many things in my life: father, husband, provider, stubborn old man, but never had a word hurt me as much as that one. Widower. As if my greatest loss was something shameful, as if loving my wife until her final breath was a weakness, as if surviving her death was a crime. That night my heart did not break. It hardened. And by the next morning, everything changed. A life built on love. My wife Alina passed away 3 years ago after a long battle with cancer. She was my compass, my anchor, my quiet strength. We had been married for 38 years. When she died, a part of me went with her. But I stayed strong for our son, Daniel. Daniel was always bright, sharp-minded, ambitious. I worked double shifts in my younger years to make sure he had good schooling. I sold my vintage car to pay for his university tuition. I even delayed my retirement so I could help him start his first business. I never complained. Because that's what fathers do. The dinner invitation. Daniel married Victoria 2 years ago. She was charming at first, polite smiles, carefully chosen compliments, but something in her eyes always felt calculating. When they invited me for dinner that Sunday evening, I felt hopeful. Maybe, I thought, this was her way of trying to bond. I brought a small bouquet of lilies, Alina's favorite flowers, and a bottle of wine. The house was immaculate but cold, like a showroom. Victoria greeted me with a tight smile. "Please sit," she said, barely meeting my eyes. Dinner started pleasantly enough. Daniel talked about expanding his company. Victoria spoke about remodeling the house. Then Daniel mentioned something that made my stomach tighten. "We're thinking of selling the old family house, Dad." The house? The one Alina and I built together. The house filled with her laughter. The house where Daniel took his first steps. I swallowed. "That house is not just property," I said gently. "It's family history." Victoria rolled her eyes. "We need liquidity, Alfred. Sentiment doesn't pay investments." I tried to keep calm. "It's in my name. I'm not ready to sell." That's when she snapped. She slammed her fork onto the plate. "Oh please," she said loudly. "You live alone in a house too big for you. Shut up, widower. Let people who actually have a future make decisions." The word echoed. "Widower." Daniel said nothing. Nothing. He stared at his plate. In that moment, I realized something devastating. I wasn't a father in that room. I was an obstacle. The silent drive home. I drove home in silence. I didn't cry. At 63 years old, tears don't come easily anymore. They dry up somewhere along the road of survival. Instead, I thought about the sacrifices, about Alina's dying wish: make sure Daniel grows into a good man. Had I failed? Or had I simply given too much? That night, I opened the safe in my study. Inside were documents, property deeds, savings certificates, my will. I had left everything to Daniel. Everything. But suddenly that felt wrong. Not because of money. Because of respect. The morning after. The next morning, I called my lawyer. By noon, I had rewritten my will. The house would go to a local charity that provided shelter for widows and elderly men abandoned by their families. My savings would fund scholarships in Alina's name. Daniel would receive something modest, enough to show I wasn't cruel, but not enough to reward indifference. I felt strangely calm. Power doesn't come from anger. It comes from clarity. The phone call. By evening, Daniel called. "Dad, Victoria feels bad about last night." I waited. She was stressed. "I see," I replied. "We were just thinking practically." Practicality without compassion, I said quietly, is greed. Silence. Then he said something that revealed everything. "Dad, you're not seriously going to block the sale, are you?" There it was. Not an apology. A negotiation. I took a deep breath. "I've already made arrangements." "What arrangements?" "You'll find out soon." The collapse. 2 days later, Victoria's world crumbled. Her father's company, where Daniel had invested heavily, was exposed in a financial scandal. Fraud, frozen accounts, investigations. Daniel's investment, gone. Their expansion plans, dead. The house remodeling, impossible. Suddenly, liquidity mattered more than ever. Daniel showed up at my door that evening, pale and shaken. "Dad, we're in trouble." I looked at him not with anger, but with sadness. "I know." "How?" "Because life has a way of balancing arrogance." He ran his hands through his hair. "We need help." There it was. The word that had been absent for years. Need. A father's choice. I could have turned him away. I could have reminded him of every silent dinner, every ignored call, every dismissive glance. Instead, I invited him inside. We sat at the same kitchen table where Alina once baked pies. "Daniel," I said softly, "do you know what hurt me most?" He looked down. "It wasn't the insult, it was your silence." His eyes filled. I didn't know what to say. "You should have said something." He nodded. "I'm sorry, Dad." For the first time in years, it felt real. Victoria's visit. The next day, Victoria came alone. Her confidence was gone. She looked smaller somehow. "I shouldn't have said that," she whispered. "No," I agreed. She swallowed. "I was wrong." I studied her. Pride stripped away reveals truth. "Respect isn't optional in this family," I said firmly, "and my wife's memory is not a weakness." She nodded, tears forming. "I understand." The revelation. I told them about the will. Victoria's face drained of color. "You gave the house to charity?" she asked. "Yes." Daniel looked stunned. "But why?" "Because property means nothing without character." They sat in silence. Then I added something important. "It's not permanent, I can revise it again." Hope flickered in their eyes. "But only if I see change, not desperation, change." Rebuilding respect. The months that followed were difficult. Daniel took a regular job, no risky investments, no shortcuts. Victoria started volunteering at the very charity I planned to support. Not for show. For growth. I watched quietly. People reveal their true selves in hardship. Slowly, something shifted. Victoria began visiting weekly, bringing homemade soup. Daniel fixed the leaking roof without being asked. They stopped discussing my house as an asset. They started calling it home. The final decision. 6 months later, I called my lawyer again. I didn't undo everything, but I adjusted it. The house would remain protected, never to be sold for profit. If Daniel inherited it one day, it would be under one condition. It must always serve family and community. No greed. No flipping. No exploitation. When I told Daniel, he didn't ask about value. He hugged me. And this time it wasn't for money. The moral. At 63 years old, I have learned something powerful. Loss does not make you weak, it makes you wise. Respect is not automatic because of blood, it is earned through action. Money can disappear overnight, property can crumble, investments can fail. But character, true character, survives every storm. Victoria lost everything the day after she insulted me. Not just financially. She lost her illusion of control. And in losing it, she found humility. Daniel nearly lost his inheritance. But more importantly, he almost lost his father. Families break not because of poverty, but because of pride. If you are blessed with parents still alive, speak gently. If you inherit their sacrifices, honor them. If you make mistakes, correct them quickly. Because time is the one inheritance no one can rewrite.